What on earth have I just witnessed? Those semi-final matches were probably some of the best semi-final fixtures I have ever seen in my life. Who knew that Inter Milan against Barcelona was going to give us one of the craziest matchups I've ever seen in my life? 13 goals across 2 games is literally the craziest thing I've ever seen in football. But even the Arsenal versus PSG matchups had controversy, crazy goals, tough decisions. In today's video, I'm going to be going over and talking about both of the semi-final matchups between Inter Milan and Barcelona and PSG against Arsenal. I'm going to be giving you guys my opinions, my thoughts, and maybe a slight preview into the final. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. I think I have to start with Inter against Barcelona because in my opinion, like I already said, that was 100% the craziest semi-final matchups I've ever seen in my life. The first leg finishing 3-3, the second leg finishing 4-3 in Inter Milan's favor. 13 goals over 2 legs is absolutely ridiculous. I have never ever seen that in my life. And the way that these matches went, both the first and second leg, was not like a regular football match. Nowadays we see a lot slower football, we see a lot more tactical football, but these games was absolute chaos. It was back and forth. It was literally like a boxing match. It was like a basketball match. One punch, another punch, one goal, another goal. It was crazy. It was absolute scenes. And if you missed these games, you missed out on probably some of the best matches this season. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about the first leg because that first half in the first leg game was very, very unexpected. The way Inter came out on top so fast, so attack heavy. They scored in the first minute, 30 seconds after the whistle, the fastest Champions League semi-final goal in history. But the way that Inter Milan were leading by 2 goals and Barcelona quickly fired back within 17 minutes of them scoring their second goal to make it 2-2 before the first half whistle was very, very unexpected. But in the second half of that first leg game, Barcelona were definitely the more dominant team. They had more of the ball. They were getting shot after shot after shot. Out of nowhere, Dumfries ended up scoring his second goal of the game and his third goal contribution of the game to put Inter Milan ahead 3-2 in Barcelona. But obviously 1 minute later, Rafinha scores a crazy screamer from outside the box to make it 3-3, and that is how the game ended. I don't think anyone expected this first leg game to finish like this because, like I already mentioned, Inter Milan are a very defensive heavy team and majority of their attacks do come off counterattacks. And Barcelona, as we know, do play with a very high defensive lineup. And I don't think we realized this before the match, but this was perfect for Inter Milan because a team that plays a high line is very susceptible to counterattacks. And Inter Milan, being a team that prioritizes the defense but is very good at counterattacks, was able to catch Barcelona out on those counterattacks multiple times. And obviously it did make for a fantastic first leg game. But the second leg game, no one expected was going to be better than the first leg game. I did predict that Inter Milan were going to go through, but I thought it was going to be a very low scoring game. But similar to the first leg, Inter Milan came out on top. They were very dominant in the first half. They started off very strong and they ended up being up by 2 goals at the end of the first half. When it was 2-0 to Inter Milan going into that second half, I thought there's no way they're going to let this lead slip again. I thought they were 100% going to make it into the final. But as we saw in the first leg, Barcelona scored 2 goals within 6 minutes to make it 2-2. And in the blink of an eye, Barcelona were right back in it. For the rest of the game, it was very 50-50. Both teams were going at it. But then we saw Rafinha in the 87th minute seemingly put the game to rest and lead Barcelona into what most people thought was going to be the final. But Acerbi, the Inter Milan defender who has never scored in a European competition. Personally, I've never been a big fan of Acerbi. I've always disliked him and I hate his tattoos, but I have to give it to him. He was in a very strange position, but he made it work and he scored a fantastic goal to make it 3-3 in the last 2 minutes of the game to send it to extra time. Then in extra time, they both continued to attack. It was a very attack heavy game, and Frattesi, this guy, if you need a last minute winner, if you need a late goal, Frattesi is the player to bring on. He is such an incredible attacking midfielder. He has incredible pace. He has incredible shooting. He is a great passer. He is an all-around package and a very underrated player. he obviously put Inter ahead with a very well-worked goal, 4-3 to Inter Milan, and they are now advancing to the Champions League final. Now, I will say that one mistake that I think costed Barcelona this game is their substitutions. I didn't think Lewandowski was a good player to bring on. Obviously, he's an amazing striker, but he has recently been injured. And I think if Ferran Torres stayed on, he probably could have got Barcelona another goal. But it wasn't only Lewandowski, because I also think that bringing on Araujo, who is normally a very strong defender, but again, another player who has been suffering from injury recently, they took off Inigo Martinez, and obviously Araujo did make a few mistakes. And I think that that last goal by Fratesi was mainly Araujo's fault. And I think if Inigo Martinez would have stayed on, they probably wouldn't have got that goal. But it's clear as day that Simone Inzaghi tactically did get the better of Hansi Flick, which I don't think many people expected. But the best team in the end did win, and now Inter are in the finals. Moving on to Arsenal versus PSG, I think that before these games were played, a lot of people thought that this would be the more interesting game, the more intense game, but it was much more low-key. If we go back to the first leg game, Arsenal had the home advantage, but PSG was the team that came out on top. From the first blow of the whistle, you could already see that PSG had much more energy and enthusiasm than what Arsenal had. And obviously, Ousmane Dembele ended up opening the scoreline as he scored the first goal in the 4th minute. They scored so early on, and I think that was a big shock to the whole Emirates and obviously Arsenal themselves. Now, it wasn't a fantastic goal. It was a little bit scuffed. He hit it off his shin and it kind of bounced into the corner of the net, but it was enough for PSG to win this game. Obviously, both teams had many chances throughout the game. I think Arsenal definitely could have scored a goal or two. I think PSG probably also could have scored another goal or two, but they both didn't make the best use of their chances. But I think the second leg was much more interesting than the first leg game. Obviously, it was being played in Paris, and a lot of Arsenal fans were still thinking that they could come back in this game. Now, me personally, I did predict that PSG were going to win this game 2-1. But Arsenal definitely had a lot of people's support. Honestly, I think PSG were very underrated because a lot of people don't watch much of PSG. Obviously, the Ligue 1 is probably the least popular of the top 5 leagues. And a lot of people don't watch PSG if they're not either fans of the club or French. Now, me personally, I am a Napoli fan, and obviously Kvaratskhelia did move to PSG, and mainly for that reason, I was watching a few of their games, and I could tell that their attack, their midfield, and even defensively, there's one of the strongest teams in the world. I was making videos about how I didn't think Arsenal were going to go through in this tie, and I had so many Arsenal fans telling me that I'm an idiot and that I'm wrong. But clearly you have not watched PSG because yes, maybe they don't have the strong defenders that Arsenal have, or maybe they don't have the Saka and Martinelli and the well-known attackers that Arsenal have, but they have a lot of youngsters that are hungry. They have that technical ability, they have that speed, and that speed from the fullbacks, the midfielders, the attackers can really kill off any team in the world. I think PSG have arguably some of the best players per position out of any team in the world. And what makes things even crazier is that the average age in their squad is under 25. They have loads of youngsters. If you look at their midfield, if you look at their attack, most of the players are under 25 years old, and even their defenders, Nuno Mendes, Pacho, all very young players. Obviously, we can't look past Donnarumma because he is a special goalkeeper. I remember watching him at AC Milan, and he was very good. But since then, he has really come a long way. We saw how good he is with the national team in the Euros, and now we're seeing him with PSG. The saves he's able to make, obviously he's a very tall goalkeeper. He's about 6'6". He has a long wingspan, and that really makes for, in my opinion, one of the best goalkeepers in the world. Now, obviously, Arsenal did have chances, and at the start of this game, I thought they were definitely going to start off by scoring a goal. But PSG ended up scoring a fantastic goal by Fabian Ruiz. Now, obviously, it did come off Saliba, but you can't take anything away from the strike. And then Hakimi sealed off the deal, scoring in the 72nd minute to make it 3-0 on aggregate. Saka did score a goal a few minutes after Hakimi to make it 2-1 on the night, but a few minutes later, he missed a crucial chance. I think if Saka would have scored that goal, Arsenal probably could have had a good chance to advance. But after that miss, I thought there's no chance, and PSG have made it into the finals. Now, the final game between Inter Milan and PSG, a team that is very defensive heavy, very experienced, and prioritizes counterattacks against a team who is young, who is energetic, who is one of the best teams technically in the whole world. This is going to be a crazy matchup. I think the semi-final matches have been some of the best semi-finals I've ever seen, and I can't wait for the final match. And that is the end of this video, where I went over the semi-final matchups between Inter Milan and Barcelona and PSG and Arsenal. I thought these semi-finals were absolutely incredible, some of the best entertainment I've seen in recent years, and I can't wait for the final. Obviously, I will be uploading my Champions League final prediction in a few weeks' time, about a week before the final match. But if you did enjoy this video and you would like to see a similar concept for the Europa League, remember to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and stay tuned for more videos.